A ship just docked in California. 16 stories tall, 800 feet long, painted on the side in letters the size of a house. BYD Explorer 1. BYD makes electric cars. BYD does not make ships, except now it does. 8 of them, built in secret, launched in 20 months. Together, they can move over 1 million cars a year without asking anyone's permission. For 100 years, no car company owned the ships that carried its cars. Ford didn't, Toyota didn't, Volkswagen didn't. BYD broke that rule. And the reason nobody noticed is because nothing exploded. To rent a car carrier, a ship that hauls vehicles across the Pacific, cost $12,500 a day in 2019. By 2021, that same ship cost $115,000 a day. A 900% increase in 2 years. That is not inflation. That is a supply chain breaking in real time. Shipping executives watched the rates climb and did nothing. They had no reason to act. The money kept coming in. BYD looked at that number and made a decision nobody else made. Don't rent, build. But there's a mechanical detail hidden inside the ship, a flaw in the business model BYD doesn't advertise, and the question of what happens on the way back. This is about control, not cost. The cost is what made the decision urgent. For decades, the car industry worked like this. Build the car, someone else ships it. That someone is one of maybe 5 companies controlling most of the world's car carrier fleet. Wallenius Wilhelmsen, NYK Line, MOL, Ucor, K-Line. If you want to move 10,000 cars from Shanghai to Los Angeles, you take the rate they offer and the schedule they give you. You have no other choice. But the 2008 financial crisis changed the math. Orders collapsed. Shipyards stopped building. The global fleet shrank. Then COVID hit. Chinese EV exports went from 600,000 units in 2020 to 4.5 million in 2023. 4.5 million cars trying to fit on a fleet built for a third of that. The ships were full. The prices went vertical. Automakers watched helplessly. The real problem was time. BYD was shipping 400,000 cars a year by 2022. Everyone needed to get on a boat, and the boats were booked. You could wait 3 months for a slot, maybe 6. Your competitor gets the slot, you don't. Your cars sit in a lot in Shenzhen while theirs are already in a showroom in Berlin. The frustration was real. Renting a ship at $115,000 a day, running it year-round, costs $42 million a year. Multiply that by 8 ships, and you're at $336 million annually. Or you spend $687 million once. You build 8 ships, you own them outright. In 2 years, the rental cost alone would have paid for the whole fleet. BYD had something nobody in Detroit had: leverage. China controls 56% of the world's shipbuilding capacity. South Korea has another 30%, Japan 7%. The entire Western world, the United States, Canada, all of Europe combined, builds less than 1% of the world's commercial ships. When BYD said they needed 8 car carriers fast, the shipyard said yes, immediately. The infrastructure was there. If Ford tried the same move, they'd have to go to South Korea or China. There is no American shipyard that builds vessels this size anymore. The capability simply doesn't exist. BYD placed the order in early 2022. The first ship, Explorer 1, was delivered 18 months later. The hull took shape, the decks were installed, the engines roared to life. By the end of 2024, all 8 were in the water. 20 months from contract to full operational fleet. In 2024, Mexico announced new tariffs on Chinese-made vehicles. The land bridge, shipping cars to Mexico, then trucking them across the border into the US, got a lot more expensive. The math changed overnight. BYD needed those ships operational before the tariff kicked in. The window was closing. You could feel the pressure. This is about a Chinese company looking at a choke point controlled by the West and deciding to build around it. This isn't just about BYD saving money on shipping. And tell me something. Where in the world are you watching this from, and what time is it there right now? Drop it in the comments, and subscribe if you're new. This is where the most extraordinary stories come alive. A car carrier is not a cargo ship with a parking lot inside. It's a floating, adjustable garage. The decks move on hydraulic lifts. You can raise them, lower them, reconfigure the height depending on what you're hauling. Workers operate the controls from the bridge, watching the steel platforms rise and fall smoothly. BYD's ships can carry 7,000 vehicles, 210,000 CEUs of capacity per ship. CEU stands for Car Equivalent Unit, an industry standard equal to the space of a 1966 Toyota Corona. A full-size pickup truck is 1.5 CEUs. A large SUV is 2. BYD is shipping mostly compact electric sedans and hatchbacks. High CEU efficiency, maximum density. That's the advantage of controlling both the car and the ship. Nobody mentions the fire risk when they talk about EV shipping. Lithium-ion batteries don't just burn, they explode and reignite. The heat builds until suddenly the entire battery module is engulfed. You can't put them out with water. Water makes it worse, fueling the chemical reaction inside the cells. You need foam systems, CO2 suppression, thermal barriers between decks. The Felicity Ace, a car carrier, caught fire in the Atlantic in 2022, carrying 4,000 vehicles. A battery fire started. The ship burned for days. It sank. The crew watched their vessel go under. Total loss, $500 million. BYD's ships run on LNG, liquefied natural gas. The fuel tanks are separated from the cargo hold by fireproof bulkheads. Each deck has its own suppression system. These are engineered for the specific risk profile of shipping thousands of lithium batteries across an ocean. BYD now has 8 ships. They can move almost 1.5 million cars a year on their own vessels. No waiting, no negotiating rates, no losing a slot to a competitor. They control the schedule, the route, the cost. Dispatchers plot courses without asking permission from shipping middlemen. That's vertical integration, at a scale the auto industry hasn't seen in 100 years. Ford doesn't own the steel mills. Tesla doesn't own the lithium mines. GM doesn't own the rail lines. BYD owns the boats. But there's a flaw in this entire plan, a massive one. The ships sail empty on the way back. BYD ships 1 million cars from China to Europe, South America, the Middle East. The ships arrive full. Workers unload cargo. Then what? There are no Chinese-made cars in Germany waiting to be shipped back to Shanghai. The return voyage is ballast, dead weight. The ship burns fuel, the crew gets paid, the engine runs, and the hold is empty. That is the flaw. Traditional shipping companies don't have this problem. A Wallenius Wilhelmsen ship drops off BMWs in California, then loads Teslas heading to Europe. The ship is always full, always earning. BYD's ships are only full one way. BYD turns their ships into floating warehouses for their competitors. Geely, another Chinese car maker, needs to ship cars to Brazil. BYD has a ship going there, mostly empty on the way back. So Geely pays BYD for the space. The payment comes through. Chery, SAIC, Great Wall, all Chinese EV makers facing the same problem BYD faced 2 years ago. Not enough ships, rates too high. Now their competitor owns the boats. Your competitor is now your landlord. BYD is selling capacity on ships built to undercut the companies they're competing against in showrooms. The ships were supposed to give BYD independence. Instead, they've turned BYD into a shipping company that happens to make cars. This isn't really about ships, it's about controlling the whole stack. BYD builds the car. BYD builds the battery inside the car. BYD builds the chips that run the software. Engineers designed every component, and now BYD builds the ship that carries the car to the customer. Compare that to Tesla. Tesla designs great cars, but lithium comes from Australia. Battery cells are made by Panasonic or CATL. Chips are fabbed in Taiwan. Ships are rented from a Norwegian company. Tesla is assembling a product. BYD is building a system. The West has spent 70 years getting really good at specialization. China is doing the opposite. Control everything. Own the supply chain. Vertical integration to the point where you're not just a car company, you're also a battery company, a semiconductor company, and a shipping line. Right now, things keep breaking. Pandemics, trade wars, chip shortages, port strikes, tariffs that change every election cycle. Supply chains ripple and snap. When COVID hit, Western car makers couldn't get chips. Production stopped. Factories sat idle. BYD kept building. They owned more of the chain. The advantage became clear. But here's the other side. BYD spent $687 million on ships with a lifespan of about 25 years. That's a 25-year bet that China will keep exporting cars at this volume. What if tariffs kill the market? What if the next US administration bans Chinese EVs? What if Europe does the same? Then BYD owns 8 very expensive ships with nowhere to go. That's the trade-off. Nothing exploded, no scandal, no failure. Just 8 ships that quietly entered service and started moving cars. The spectacular gets covered. The structural gets missed. What BYD did here is exactly what China has been doing everywhere else. Solar panels, batteries, drones, semiconductors, telecoms, rail. Step 1. Enter the market. Undercut on price. Capture share. Step 2. Build the infrastructure yourself instead of renting it. Stop depending on others. Step 3. Your competitors now depend on infrastructure you own. You're not just selling products, you're selling access. And the West keeps renting. Because building takes time, capital, and a willingness to lose money for years. Public companies can't afford that. Shareholders would revolt. State-backed companies can. China is willing to own the boring, expensive, low-margin infrastructure that makes everything else possible. Ports, shipyards, rare earth refineries, battery factories. The stuff nobody wants to build because the return takes 20 years. Investors see the long timeline and walk away. The West outsourced that a generation ago because shareholders wanted returns now, not in 2045. That worked great for 30 years, but the trade-off was control. When the supply chain breaks, you realize efficiency without control is just dependency with extra steps. BYD looked at a shipping bottleneck and said, "We'll build the ships." That's the mindset. That's the model. It's not limited to cars. It's semiconductors, solar, batteries, drones, telecoms. Every category where the West used to lead and now doesn't. The farmer's son who started making refrigerator parts in a workshop now owns 8 ocean-going car carriers that can move over 1 million vehicles a year without asking anyone's permission. BYD built an escape route from a system where Western logistics companies set the price, the schedule, and the terms. In 20 months. That's what vertical integration looks like when the state writes the check and the shipyard is next door. The future of the car industry wasn't decided in Detroit. It wasn't decided in Stuttgart or Tokyo. It's being decided in Shenzhen. One supply chain at a time. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next story makes this one look small.